high on the release of Dragon Age Origins and Awakening, and slightly less high on the Dragon Age 2 sequel, you unwrapped the Felicia Day-shaped package of the web series Dragon Age Redemption. Then you went into counselling for years. This is not that story.
Cassandra! Protecting the Circle and Chantry is more important than revenge!
Cassandra, hate can only breed more hate.
It's fair to expect a movie reviewer to give you the goods, to not hide, dissemble, or dodge. You may have heard that Dragon Age Dawn of the Seeker's animation style was lacking and it missed character depth. You understood people didn't connect with the heroes in it. Perhaps you even heard the voice acting was some dollar store knockoff nonsense. But you may have also heard that it's a cult classic, a satisfying bridge between 2011's Dragon Age 2 and 2014's Inquisition, that it leans into the bloody aesthetic of the games, carries a satisfying story, and honours lesser-known heroes, elevating them to powerful roles within the series' lore. And I'm here to tell you, yes. It's hard not to look at Dawn of the Seeker's IMDb score and wonder why you should bother. The problem with averages is that if we've got one man's trash at 1 out of 10 and another's treasure at 10 out of 10, that still gives us a 5. All scores have nuance. Felicia Day's web series carried along a 6.1 score, possibly because she is an anchor personality in a geeky fandom. We love Alicia and all she does, and so when Redemption rolled around, we couldn't help but edge those scores up. With a lesser-known hero in Cassandra, and a story designed to show the bloody politics of the game's world through anime action and dialogue, it's a steeper hill for many fans to climb. Despite this, it's a fascinating piece of media that single-handedly bridges the gap between the games and fills in a lot of the why that sits at the start of Dragon Age 2. It's both a visual feast and narrative primer, and also a movie that dares tell the real story of a strong woman in a hard time, rather than a man's interpretation of female strength. With Dragon Age the Veilguard on the horizon, let's get into why watching Dawn of the Seeker's Cassandra change from an instrument dogmatically pursuing the Chantry's bloody truth is worth your 90 minutes. When Dragon Age rolled through the gate in 2009, the game was rich with blood-soaked cutscenes. The intro, where a dragon logo splatters on the screen, really set the scene for what was to come. The game didn't shy away from any of this, creating an astoundingly rich story world for CRPG titans BioWare. Their own rationale for launching Dragon Age was to create a story world they owned. Their previous epics were owned by Hasbro/Wizards of the Coast for Dungeons & Dragons, or Lucas in the case of Star Wars. They had the cash and the people, and so they dug deep in the mines to dredge up an outstandingly rich world full of politics, history, and people in their factions. The problem with creating a big-ass world full of politics is that most of your gamer customers want a deep treatise on the background of Orlais about as much as they want an acid enema. BioWare cranked great games, then bonded them to books to tell the whole story. The crossover between games and books isn't as amazing as schools everywhere would hope, and so they turned to another medium, movies. It was vital any Dragon Age movie honored the game's worth and its aesthetic. Dawn of the Seeker retains the overtly bloody nature of the earlier Dragon Age games, which is somewhat faded in more recent releases. Realism was exchanged for a more casual pair of shorts. The fandom flexed, some enjoying the earlier art style, and others encouraging a shift. This second group might have had their gag reflex triggered when encountering the deeply anime, bloody, violent nature of the movie. Despite this, the art direction isn't blood for blood's sake. The animators of Dawn of the Seeker showcased shadow and light mastery. The sublime work on character expressions helps smooth over the dual language struggle of a title that needs to release in English and Japanese. They made up for some of the occasionally wooded lip-syncing without losing the duality of the movie's heritage as a Western video game with Japanese animation style and flair. Some modern viewers, more aware of art and culture imported from offshore, will have less trouble with this today than 2012 audiences did. It's not just lighting that does the heavy lifting, though. The operatic, larger-than-life style of anime storytelling brilliantly suits a world like Dragon Age's. It allows writers and animators to tackle more complex, mature themes like the tensions between mages and Templars, or Templars and Seekers. This is a movie that doesn't shy away from sticking a big-ass sword through a guy, then having him bleed out right in front of you. There's no cuts to black where arms, legs, and heads are removed. Cassandra keeps her eyes open, and if she has to see the horrible world she lives in, the animators felt, you should too. It's this focus on cleaving true to the nature of the world BioWare created that is the first remarkable feat for an anime released into the West. It didn't look away. There's an ongoing debate about what makes a strong female character. We tend to know it when we see it, like with Ripley from Alien. Sometimes we struggle when female characters become chicks with dicks. When Cassandra arrives at the start of Dragon Age 2, she is right up in Varric's grill. We meet her as the long arm of the law, a seeker, an instrument of the Chantry's justice who needs no process nor permission to undertake the sacred duty of the Chantry. What we don't know is how Cassandra got to this point. She is the head cop of a group of cops in a fantasy world in which pretty much everything wants to kill you. She isn't strong based on your ideas of female empowerment. Dawn of the Seeker shows how she is strong because she's able to survive the violent, brutal world she inhabits. She is strong, sure, and with that strength comes her own share of flaws. The movie showcases how her dogmatic pursuit blinds her to truth simply because the truth teller wears a mage's robes. She must navigate from intolerance to tolerance while her order hunts her down and the people she trusted are out for blood. But because she is cool as all hell, she steps up to the plate. She's not afraid to swing for what she believes in. Cassandra is a seeker, which means she wants the truth. Every part of her is focused on that, regardless of how much it hurts and how hard it is to uncover. She is not a standard fantasy heroine ready to drop a tear and let a man help her up. She's also non-standard because she doesn't need some dude giving a 5-minute exposition breakdown of why people are assholes. Remember, this is someone who doesn't look away. That doesn't mean she doesn't doubt. Cassandra meets people who change her views, be they mages or the senior members of Templar and Seekers. Her black and white thinking is put up against the sun, so she gets a real view for just how many holes in it there are. Cassandra is caught in the thick of the ongoing Mage-Templar conflict, fiercely loyal to the Chantry, but starting to feel the cracks in its rigid structure. As she questions the treatment of mages, we see the seeds of the moral complexity that will fully bloom in Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition. Her experience with Galleon, a mage who defies the usual dangerous stereotype, pushes her to reconsider the black and white rules she once followed without question. This internal struggle makes Dawn of the Seeker essential viewings to understand her evolution from Templar enforcer to reluctant champion of mages' rights. See, she's not the only hero. She's joined on her journey by Galleon, who is a wonderful character. His arc starts as too trusting, too pure by half. That doesn't mean he doesn't bring sass, although he almost gets wrecked for calling Cassandra beautiful. They didn't know each other well enough for that, but because he's strong in a different way to Cassandra, he takes it in his stride. He's not prideful, rather purposeful. Where Cassandra strikes at her enemies, Galleon looks out for his friends. It's the two of them working together that brings real heart to the story. They're on different sides of a war that started before they were born. But like most of the youth older generations leave their problems to, they're here for it. Cassandra doesn't abandon us after this movie, continuing on into Dragon Age 2. The film ends in an iconic moment before she embarks on her quest that takes her to Varric. This is a tremendously powerful beat that leads into her game and further narrative arc. She is fury and justice given purpose, but not for herself or the wrongs done to her. Cassandra is a believer, and the thing she believes in is a better world. There's a deeper feminist lens here. I mentioned that Galleon got a tune-up for an inappropriate comment, but that's just because Cassandra understands how beauty is weaponized by others. Cassandra doesn't fall into the trap of being the beautiful warrior, a trope so common in both anime and fantasy. She refuses to let her appearance define her strength, resisting the objectification that could easily turn her into a spectacle rather than a character with depth. While other heroines might lean on their beauty as a form of power, Cassandra's power is her unwavering will. She's a fighter, a seeker, and someone who values truth and honor far more than vanity. In a world where beauty often equals weakness, Cassandra's refusal to play that game makes her a standout. Cassandra has respect and love for those who see beyond her shell, be it Byron, who is the father she wished she had, or the High Seeker who treats her justly, fairly, and always considers her comments as the shield of his people he has learned to be. Cassandra's strength isn't just surface level. It's an internalized clockwork that allows her vulnerability in moments that can bring anyone to their knees. And by the Maker, pity the fool who wrongs her or those she loves, because her one job is turning evil people into corpses for the Chantry. She loves her job, and she's really, really good at it. There are a few people who might criticize Dawn of the Seeker as being too lean on plot details. It's this light touch that makes it more accessible. Where some lorehounds wanted a deep, intricate War of the Roses style narrative, the movie opts for something faster paced. The lore is there. It's accurate. It chooses to tell a very simple, straightforward story backing up the complex history between mages and the Chantry, but it goes directly for something we often overlook, which is that, despite the sand in the gears, there are good people on both sides. The Chantry exists to ensure magic never rules humans, but circle mages are often friends. It is the complexity of this job and the fine line between mage and apostate where Dawn of the Seeker digs deepest. It shows the ragged story of the persecuted, where good mages are distrusted by Templars and Seekers alike, but also hunted by their own kind. And where it really leans in is how Cassandra needs to see the first part. Mages can be friends, trusted, allies in our journey to a better world. She gets an understanding of persecution, feels its hot breath on her neck for a moment. This is because Galleon, who she must work with, is different from many mages in the games. Where they're either subservient or villainous, Dawn of the Seeker shows not all mages are evil. Rather than being reductive, it adds to the Mage-Templar debate. The cool thing is, you don't need to understand all the game's history to get on board. You can see how this kit was designed with a simple set of instructions that anyone can assemble. It's not incomprehensible without game knowledge, meaning it's a tie-in to an existing property that stands alone. There's action, from blades to lightning bolts. In its quieter moments, it elegantly matches the game's slower-paced storytelling, where information is designed to unfold over a period of time. Rather than beating audiences over the head with 300,000 written words of backstories, the movie shucks a heavy cloak of plot for a leaner, bare-bones affair. It's this focus on a single aspect of the game's history, the most human part of it all, that lends strength to the anime while still giving fans a familiar experience. Cassandra, like us, grows to see the complexities of the world. She doesn't lose her strength. Exposure to doubt and seeing what truth really looks like leaves her stronger than ever. This ties to a future journey in Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition. She must bring order, but with a newfound flexibility of thought uncommon among junior seekers. It's this flexibility of thought that ensures Varric doesn't die by her hand in the first 5 minutes of Dragon Age 2. You can't tell me he wasn't asking for it. Dawn of the Seeker might not be perfect, but it offers fans of the games a raw, bloody slice of the Dragon Age world. Its operatic violence and strong character arcs are well manufactured for a simpler plot that doesn't crawl up its own arse. Its art, particularly lighting and shadow, are sublime. The characters it offers, particularly Cassandra and Galleon, are rich, interesting, and have such great affection for each other that by the end you wonder how they could ever have got off to such a hard start. The voice work is rich, and it deftly lands the tricky middle ground between a Western narrative and a Japanese aesthetic. Which leaves us in quite a good place, because while perfection is one thing, being damn cool is another. Fans of Dragon Age will dig seeing an anime take on their beloved universe. Rough around the edges? For sure. But in this 90-minute rush, you'll find a story that's as bold as the games. Cassandra is a rich, powerful, complex character. She continues to be a major force in the Dragon Age world. If you want to see where she got her start, this is the movie to watch. It's a rare, raw, and unflinching look at one of the world's most important heroes. And make no mistake, Cassandra is a hero. Dawn of the Seeker is bloody, brutal, and a hell of a lot of fun. So before Dragon Age the Valguard drops, grab some popcorn and check it out. What did you think of Dragon Age Dawn of the Seeker? Let me know in the comments below. I'm going to do another video on the Netflix series Dragon Age Absolution, so check subscribe if you want a notification for when that drops. Thanks for watching.
Please hang up and try again.